From homeless to millionaire, a black man's journey inspiring Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Jacob Reed stood on the balcony overlooking the glittering skyline of Manhattan. The buzz from the charity gala swirling like a storm beneath him. The soft hum of laughter mixed with clinking glasses, but inside his chest tightened. 20 years, 2 decades since that life turned upside down. 2 decades since the streets, the hunger, the cold. Now he was a billionaire, a self-made success story that even Elon Musk and Donald Trump had mentioned in passing as inspiration. Strange, right? How the world picks its heroes? Jacob scanned the crowd, his polished suit blending seamlessly with the elite. But his eyes caught someone. Sarah. She looked different, quieter, yet the same. She carried no spotlight, no headline to chase, just a calm shadow that tugged at his heart. She wasn't supposed to be here, not after all these years. Oh, their eyes locked like a shot in the dark. A sudden silence swallowed the space between them, drowning the chatter. Memories slammed into Jacob like a freight train. Late nights of wild dreams, whispered promises, and the sharp sting of goodbye. He swallowed hard as Sarah stepped closer, her voice low, trembling. Jacob, there's something you never knew. A daughter. Our daughter. The words hit him like a punch in the gut. Stunned silent. Before Jacob could speak, a chill ran down his spine. Across the room, a man with a camera lens trained on them. Lurking, the rival journalist, always waiting to pounce on a crack in the armor. Desperate to twist his past, to ruin his hard-earned life. This wasn't just a reunion. This was a powder keg ready to blow. Sarah's revelation caught fire. Their daughter was trapped, caught in a financial mess no one wanted to talk about. A web of debts and threats that could drag down everything Jacob had built. His mind raced, heart beating. He had spent years building a name, a public image, but now all of it teetered dangerously. The night darkened further when another secret crept out. One buried deep in his family's roots. Jacob's fists clenched, doubt sliced through trust. Who could he believe? What had been real all this time? His polished mask cracked, revealing the turmoil beneath. Every face around them blurred. Every whisper felt like a dagger. A gasp here, a shaken head there. The glimmering lights above now felt cold and distant, like fake stars in a smokescreen. Yet, as chaos erupted, Jacob caught Sarah's eye. Something fragile, a flicker of hope amid the storm. He knew the stakes, not just his fortune or his reputation. This was about protecting a child he never held, a family tangled in shadows. And maybe, just maybe, he had a chance to fix what time had broken. But could he risk everything? Could he face the ghosts and silence the lies before everything shattered for good? Jacob Reed swallowed his fear, tightened his jaw, and stepped forward. The night was far from over. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jacob Reed swallowed his fear, tightened his jaw, and stepped forward. The night was far from over, but as he moved towards Sarah, movement exploded beside him. The rival journalist lunging through the crowd, camera snapping like an angry firecracker. Jacob, is it true? Do you have a daughter? The air thickened with gasps and whispers, heads jerking in their direction. Jacob's mind raced. This wasn't just bad press. This was an avalanche ready to bury him whole. Stay away from us, Jacob shot back, but the man smirked. Sensing the chaos he was stirring, his heart pounded louder with every click of the lens. Sarah's face paled, and Jacob felt the world around him spiral. Then, amid the chaos, Sarah whispered, "Jacob, you need to hear the rest." His polsk weekend. What do you mean? Before she could answer, the lights flickered. Panic rippled through the room. Guests murmured, some starting to leave, others pulling out their phones. Jacob leaned in. What's going on? And then it happened. A deafening crash. The sound ripped through the gala as glass shattered. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Jacob turned, heart racing, to see a figure in black bursting through the crowd. He wore a mask, a gun in hand, waving it in the air. "Get down!" Someone yelled. Jacob's instincts kicked in, pushing Sarah behind him, shielding her from the flying shards of glass and terror. He could feel the eyes in the room, the shock, the fear, the disbelief. This wasn't just a bad night. It was about to become a living nightmare. The masked man shouted, "Everyone stay calm. This is for your own good." But the panic rose like a wave, hands grasping their phones, dialing for help. Jacob's mind raced. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Sarah, the daughter he never knew, and the absolute uncertainty gnawing at his insides. "What do you want?" Jacob shouted over the din, trying to assert control. "You don't have to do this. Where's the money?" The man yelled back, voice echoing across the now adrenaline-fueled crowd. The walls seemed to close in around them. Hope dimmed in Jacob's chest as he realized this wasn't random. It was personal. Sarah trembled beside him. "Jacob, it's about your past." Jacob's heart jolted. The stakes had skyrocketed, unraveling the life he'd built. Was his success really just a ruse? Were the debts he thought settled deeper than he knew? No time to dwell. The masked figure pushed forward, anger radiating off him. Just then, everything shattered, louder than the glass. A gunshot. Time froze, the air thick and heavy. People screamed, ducking for cover. Jacob and Sarah exchanged a terrified glance. Blood pooled crimson in Jacob's mind as he wondered who'd been hit. Amid this chaos, a woman stood at the far end of the room, a stark silhouette against the flashing lights. Her face emerged from the shadows. Disbelief seeped into Jacob's bones. It can't be! This was his mother, long presumed dead, the whispers he buried deep in his heart. now surfacing in a moment of gut-wrenching clarity. His mother smiled, but it didn't feel like a reunion. It was sinister, filled with secrets long hidden. What had she done? Jacob's world tilted. Everything he knew swirled around him like a whirlwind. Who was the real enemy? His past or the woman standing before him? The chaos enveloped them, but Jacob's focus sharpened on the new twist of fate. Could he destroy the remnants of his past to save his future? Jacob Reed swallowed his fear, tightened his jaw, and stepped forward. The night was far from over. He moved towards Sarah, heart racing. Everyone seemed to hold their breath. The rumors were already swirling. Questions hung in the air, thick like smoke. He needed answers, and more than that, he needed to protect whatever they still had. But before he could make sense of it all, the atmosphere shifted abruptly. A loud crash echoed through the gala, and a voice rang out, sharp and clear as glass breaking. "Jacob Reed, you're a liar!" All heads turned. The crowd parted, revealing a man with wild eyes, hair frazzled, and anger twisting his features. He shoved through the guests, barging toward Jacob like an arrow loosed from a bow. Jacob's heart jumped. This wasn't just any face. It was Marcus, his long-lost brother, the one he thought was gone forever, buried in the hard reality of their past. But how could he be here now? "Marcus!" Jacob gasped, thrown between shock and confusion. The room pulsed with whispers and gasps, like a tide rising. "You thought you could just forget me? You think your money can buy you a clean break?" Marcus shouted, each word laced with pain and betrayal. "You've built an empire on the ashes of our family!" Jacob's throat tightened. Memories flickered, loud fights, harsh realities, the day Marcus disappeared into the streets. Questions about dignity and survival flooded back. Everything he had fought for was being ripped open. "Listen to me, Marcus," Jacob pleaded, taking a step closer. "This isn't the way." "Not the way? You left me!" Marcus's face turned paler than bone. "And now you stand here with your fancy suits while I'm drowning in the dirt you refuse to see." A wave of collective shock swept through the crowd. Jacob could feel their eyes piercing into him, assessing, judging. The elegance of the gala felt hollow now, the laughter silenced, replaced by a heavy tension. "Wait, Marcus." Sarah's voice trembled. She stepped forward, confusion and fear mingling on her features. "You're alive?" Marcus eyed her, anger shifting into something darker. "You stood by him while our family fell apart. You thought he was better without us." That was the moment Jacob felt everything tilt. The truth was unraveling. He opened his mouth to defend Sarah, to defend himself, but the weight of the revelations held him back. The thoughts twisted in his head. Sarah knew about Marcus? Did she know more than she let on? "Jacob, she kept it all from you." Marcus was relentless, his voice a harsh whisper now, filled with venom. "She never told you about the plan. She never told you about your real father." Jacob felt the ground shift beneath him, disbelief rolling over him like a wave. His real father? What was Marcus saying? The roots of his past twisted deeper, revealing lies buried beneath every success. "Sarah, what does he mean?" Jacob's voice cracked. He desperately searched her face for answers, but all he found was dread. Before anyone could react, chaos erupted. A chandelier trembled, the lights flickered, and then an explosion. Suddenly, shouts erupted, people stumbled, and Jacob instinctively grabbed Sarah's arm. The room erupted into panic. Distant sirens pierced through the noise, as if the world itself had turned against them. In that moment, Jacob's heart raced, not just from fear of the blast, but from the crushing reality. Every lie he believed, every achievement he held up as a shield, was now a fragile illusion, ready to collapse. He pulled Sarah close, eyes wide. "Let's go!" he shouted, trying to cut through the chaos. But as they began to push through the throng, Jacob caught Marcus's gaze. It was filled with something he hadn't expected, an urgency that sparked a second thought. What else was buried? What else would come crashing down? As they rushed toward the door, Jacob felt the weight of shadows closing in. Nothing would ever be the same again. But what horrors waited around the corner? Jacob pulled Sarah closer, urgency flooding his veins. The explosion was a distant horror, but fear etched its mark on their faces. He needed to get her out of here. Every eye in the room was locked on them, whispers snaking through the crowd like poisonous vines. "Come on, we need to move," Jacob urged, shoving through bodies, the heat of panic igniting their flight. But his brother's voice cut through the chaos, jagged and raw. "You're running away again, Jacob!" Marcus shouted, his voice rising above the tide of screams. "You can't escape this time!" "What do you want, Marcus?" "I'm trying to save us," Jacob shot back, his heart pounding. Panic coursed through him, twisting his thoughts. Just then, the masked man, still holding the gun, turned sharply. "Get back," he yelled, pointing it toward Marcus. The room froze again, a crystal moment where hope dangled by a thread. "Please, don't do this," Sarah cried, tightening her grip on Jacob's arm. He could feel her trembling against him, their vulnerability magnified in that charged air. And then, the unexpected happened. The gunman's gaze flickered, something akin to fear flashing in his eyes as he focused on Marcus. "You shouldn't have come here, ... he spat, voice shaking. The sudden shift in his tone sent Jacob's stomach plummeting. Were they connected somehow? Marcus didn't back down. "What do you mean? You're scared of the truth?" The masked man let out a bark of laughter, hollow and jarring. "You think you're brave? Your brother thinks he can bury the past, but you're just a ghost trying to drag him back." Jacob's mind raced, memories colliding. All these years, he'd kept his past hidden. But now, it was unraveling before him. Moments from his childhood flooding back. Whispers of betrayal. Secrets whispered in the dark, like shadows haunting his every success. "Enough!" Jacob yelled, stepping in front of Marcus. He felt the power of the room crashing down, forcing his chest to tighten. "This isn't the place for this. There are people here." Before he could finish, the gunman shouted again, more frantically, "This is my moment. This is about you, Jacob. You took everything from me." "What do you mean?" Jacob's voice trembled now, confusion mixing with a flicker of recognition that sent a cold chill down his spine. But before the man could answer, there was another loud crack. The lights above flickered and shattered as the roof groaned with turmoil. People screamed, diving for cover as plaster rained down like confetti. In the chaos that ensued, the gun was dropped. A deafening thud against the polished floor. The masked man stumbled back, caught off guard as more chaos erupted. Jacob's heart raced. Suddenly, the figure in the shadows, standing near the shattered chandelier, stepped into the light. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. It was his mother, unmistakably alive, completely unreal, yet painfully present. "It's time you learned the truth, Jacob," she called, her voice cutting through the din with surprising clarity. The room was a whirlpool of chaos, but her words froze time. Every eye turned toward her, mouths agape. "Mom?" Jacob whispered, a name catching like glass shards in his throat. "But I thought you were gone." She smiled, but it wasn't one of comfort. It was sinister, filled with secrets, revealing this was no coincidence. Immediately, Marcus shouted, "You shouldn't have come here. This was supposed to be a clean break." "What are you talking about?" Jacob stumbled back, mind reeling. What was happening? Who was the enemy now? And then, as if the world could sense his confusion, the ground shook underfoot. An explosion, much louder this time. A fiery eruption from the ballroom's entry, washing over them like molten lava. Jacob's heart raced. Everything was shifting. Who were these people? Who could he trust? "Get to safety," he shouted, but the urgency in his voice faltered as he watched his mother's eyes swirl with hidden truths. "Jacob!" Sarah grabbed his arm, eyes wide. "What now?" But even he didn't know. Everything they had fought for felt like it was slipping away. The past and present were colliding. What would emerge from the chaos? Who was Daniel, the masked man? Why could she be there? What ties bound them all together in a tapestry of shock and rage? In that moment, Jacob knew one truth. Nothing was ever going to be the same again. Anxiety clawed at him, and as he locked eyes with Sarah, a grim realization churned in his gut. The real battle was just beginning. Jacob Reed swallowed his fear, tightened his jaw, and stepped forward. The night was far from over. He moved toward Sarah, his heart pounding. But just as he reached her, the lights flickered, and a hush fell over the room. Every face turned toward the entrance. A figure stood there, framed by the doorway, silhouetted against the dazzling chaos of the gala. The man's voice rang out, deep and cutting through the silence like a knife. "Jacob Reed, you think you can hide?" It was Marcus, his past creeping back like a ghost. Jacob's throat went dry. Marcus had been there in the dark days, his supposed friend, but betrayal had stained their history. "What do you want?" Jacob's voice trembled slightly, a mix of anger and fear. "I want the truth," Marcus declared, stepping forward. He wore a smug grin, the kind that promised trouble. "You're living a fairy tale, but the world needs to know how you really got here." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Eyes widened. People leaned closer, hungry for the drama unfolding. Jacob felt the heat rise in his cheeks. This isn't the time, Marcus. But Marcus had a different plan. He pulled out an envelope, brandishing it like a trophy. "You mean to tell me that the same streets you rose from don't come with some dirty laundry? I've got proof, Jacob." A lump formed in Jacob's throat, panic clawing at him. Sarah's worried glance cut deep. She was caught in the crossfire, and their daughter. He thought of her tangled in this mess. "You can't do this!" Jacob spat, aware of the cameras clicking around them. His reputation, everything he'd built, hung on the edge. "Watch me! You think you're a hero? I know who your father was, and what he did." The silence that followed was deafening. All the laughter, the music, it vanished into nothing. Jacob felt his world tumble. Memories surged. His father, a figure shadowed in shame, whispered the secrets that had left scars on Jacob's life. No one ever mentioned the truth about his family, the darkness that loomed behind their name. "Let me remind you," Marcus continued, "your past is tied to more than just your success. There's crime, deception, and that's not all." He paused, relishing the moment. "You're not who you think you are." The weight of Marcus's words crashed onto Jacob like a tidal wave. He searched the crowd, their reactions blurring into shock and disbelief. His facade shattered, adrenaline surged. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Someone screamed. The chandeliers flickered again. A commotion stirred at the back of the room. Jacob turned, and then an explosion rocked the venue. Glass shattered. People screamed and scrambled for safety. Panic exploded like fireworks. Jacob felt the heat on his skin, saw shadows darting for the exit, heard cries piercing through the chaos. His heart raced as he grabbed Sarah's arm, instinct driving him. "We need to move!" But as he pulled her towards the door, something in her eyes froze him. "Wait, Jacob!" Her voice trembled. "This changes everything! You need to know who you really are before it's too late." What had she meant? His mind whirled with confusion, fear. He was losing everything all at once. His reputation, the truth about his father, and now, possibly, Sarah's trust. With chaos all around, they faced a choice: run or fight. It was in that moment, amidst the screams and wreckage, that Jacob realized the extent of the war brewing, not just outside, but within. The night had turned dark, each shadow whispering secrets that could devour him whole. "Tell me," he demanded, clenching his fists. But another blast shook the building, the crowd spiraling into frenzy. Among the noise, Jacob saw only Sarah, her expression haunted, the truth teetering on a knife's edge. Could he handle it? Would he want to? The night was far from over. It was only just beginning. Jacob pushed aside the doubt, stepping towards Sarah, determined to face this head-on. His pulse quickened, but as he moved, the crowd around him shifted. People gasped, their eyes wide. A ripple coursed through the gala, a murmur rising that felt like a wave pulling back from the shore, ready to crash down. Then it happened. A flash of red and blue lights sliced through the gilded room. A deafening crash echoed as the doors flung open. A squad of police officers stormed in, uniforms shining like badges of authority among the chaos. Jacob's breath caught, confusion swirling. Had he done something wrong? Was this about Sarah? The stares from the crowd were piercing, judgment heavy in the air. "Jacob Reed, we need you to come with us." The commanding voice cut through the clinks of crystal and whispers like a knife. Jacob froze, heart racing, suddenly a spotlight on him. He glanced at Sarah. She seemed pale, lips trembling. "Wait, what is this about?" he managed to choke out. An officer stepped forward, fierce and unwavering. We have a warrant for your arrest for financial fraud. You are accused of embezzling over $10 million. Jacob felt the ground shift beneath him, his body numb. A whirlwind of feelings coursed through him. Confusion, anger, fear. This has to be a mistake. I've built everything from the ground up. This can't be? Jacob, breathe, Sarah said softly, but her eyes danced with something else, something he couldn't quite place. Suddenly, a powerful figure emerged from the crowd. It was his business partner, Marcus, and he was trembling, pale as a ghost. Jacob, it's true, sort of. I sold you out. You were set up. I had no choice. His voice cracked like glass, shattering under pressure. The world spun. Jacob felt bile rise in his throat. Betrayal burned through him. Every shared laugh, every late-night strategy session, every moment of trust evaporated in an instant. He staggered back, letting the chaos blur around him. Why, Marcus? You're my friend! The pain in Jacob's voice cut through the thick atmosphere. I was scared. They threatened my family. I couldn't! Marcus faltered, eyes darting as though searching for an escape. People began to murmur, whispers slithering like a shadow across the room, gnawing at Jacob's reputation. The air turned thick with anticipation and disbelief. Your daughter, she's a pawn in this game, Marcus finally added, voice low. They're using her to get to you. A devastating twist. Jacob felt sick. The secrets, the lies, all for what? Sarah stepped closer, urgency in her eyes. Jacob, listen to me. There's more we need to talk about. Not just her debts. The truth about your family. About your father. Now, Jacob was caught in a storm, each revelation striking him like a bolt of lightning. The strong persona he had built cracked and splintered, revealing a truth he wasn't ready to face. With the weight of betrayal and loss heavy on his chest, Jacob turned back to the officers, fists clenched, determination bubbling beneath the surface. He would find out how deep this rabbit hole went. I'm not going anywhere. If I'm going to fall, I want the truth first. Jacob's voice rose above the crowd, the realization dawning on him that he had more than his life on the line. He had a daughter, a family, consumed by darkness, and he might just have to step into that darkness himself. Cameras flashed, the whispers surged, and in that moment of doubt and chaos, Jacob knew only one thing. He was just getting started. Jacob Reed swallowed his fear, tightened his jaw, and stepped forward. The night was far from over. Jacob! Sarah's voice wavered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. We need to talk about Lily. It's urgent. But before he could respond, the room jolted with a loud crash. Glass shattered, shards spraying across the marble floor, slicing through the night's elegance. Heads jerked toward the sound. A sudden rush of panic swept through the crowd, faces morphing from curiosity to dread. Jacob's heart raced. This was not the kind of chaos he'd expected. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught the journalist springing forward, camera aimed, eyes alight with malice. This is going to be a story, he bellowed, snapping pictures, capturing the chaos unfolding like a predator on the hunt. Then, a figure rushed through the broken glass. It was a young girl, Drenched in sweat, her clothes tattered and dirty, she looked lost and terrified as she burst into the upscale gala. Whispers erupted, eyes widened. "Who is she?" Someone gasped, their tone laced with shock. Jacob felt his stomach twist. She was headed straight for him. It was like time slowed as she neared. The commotion faded. All he could see was her wide, frightened eyes staring up at him. There was something achingly familiar about her face. "Dad!" she cried, voice raw and desperate. Every breath hitched in Jacob's chest. "What? How do you know me? Who are you?" Panic surged as reality hit him like a freight train. This girl looked like Sarah, yet she wore his blood in her features. Sarah's face drained of color. "No, it can't be." His heart thudded. "What are you saying?" "Jacob, it's not just Lily. This girl—" She hesitated, the words barely escaping her lips. "She could be." And then everything erupted. The girl reached into her pocket, pulling out a crumpled, weathered document and thrusting it into Jacob's shaking hands. "You have to see this. You have to believe me." The room swarmed with whispers, eyes darting, a collective gasp trailing like smoke. Jacob unfolded the document. His breath caught in his throat. A birth certificate! No, the name written there sliced through him. It was Lily's name, all right, but alongside it, the surname didn't match his. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Confused murmurs surrounded him, a whirlwind of judgments wrapped in skepticism. "Fake!" shouted someone from the back, eyes digging into the girl's frail frame. Another chimed in, "What's this scheme?" But Jacob couldn't hear them. His mind shattered into a million pieces. "What does this mean?" His voice came out a whisper, filled with disbelief. Suddenly, another voice broke through the chaos, deep, commanding. "Step away from the child." A security guard thundered, making his way through the crowd, eyes narrowing on the girl as if she were a wild animal, ready to pounce. "Wait!" Jacob shouted, instinctively reaching out. But it was too late. The guard grabbed the girl, yanking her back. She screamed, fighting against his grip. "No, please, I just want to tell him." An entire life, a web of secrets, spun like a storm around him. Jacob's heart raced. Who was this girl? Was she truly Lily? And if so, what did all of this mean for the life he had built? The dreams he thought were secure? His jaw tightened as panic boiled and shouts erupted around him. Jacob took a shaky step back, a whirlwind of confusion. He had unknowingly walked into a nightmare, and now everything depended on unraveling this shocking truth before it spiraled completely out of control. His thoughts spun like a broken record. Could this night get any worse? Jacob pulled Sarah closer. Urgency flooding his veins. The explosion felt like a distant horror, but fear etched its mark on their faces. He needed to get her out of here. The crowd was spiraling into chaos, eyes darting everywhere, capturing every moment like vultures circling a carcass. "Come on, we need to get out," Jacob urged, shoving past people, adrenaline pumping through him. "We're not safe here." But the girl, Lily, was still being restrained by the security guard, her screams mingling with the madness around them. "Please, I just want to tell him." Jacob's heart twisted. He had to know the truth, But before he could act, the atmosphere shifted again. A loud bang echoed, different from the earlier explosion. The walls shook. Suddenly, in a flash of confusion, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Panic washed over the room again as people screamed, rushing towards the exits like a wave. "Stay back!" the guard shouted, his grip tightening around Lily. But Jacob took a step forward, eyes locked on the girl. "Let her go!" he demanded, desperation rising. "She's telling the truth!" But then, with an unexpected and violent crash, the ceiling above them splintered. Large chunks of plaster began to fall, debris raining down like heavy snow. The crowd screamed again, shoving, pushing, desperate to escape. Jacob ducked, instinct driving him to protect Sarah. "Get down!" he shouted, pulling her to the ground. The terror wrapped around him like chains, muffling his breaths. And then he saw it. A flash of movement. Someone in a dark coat slipped through the chaos, rushing toward the stage. A figure well known, the last person Jacob expected to see. "Jacob!" called a familiar voice, tinged with urgency and fear. His blood ran cold. It was his father, but it couldn't be. He'd been gone for years, presumed dead. The reality crashed over Jacob in waves, drowning him in disbelief. "Dad?" His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. His father's eyes were wide, filled with desperation. "We don't have time. They're coming for you." "What do you mean?" Jacob was rooted in place, fear and confusion mingling inside him. "You're not supposed to be here. Listen!" His father glanced around, clearly aware of the danger encroaching. "We need to get out of here now. I have to tell you everything." But just as Jacob processed this shocking revelation, the masked man from before surged forward, aiming the gun toward his father. "You ruined everything." "Stop!" Jacob shouted, adrenaline rushing through him. "Don't hurt him!" Chaos erupted again. Shouts, panic, people scrambling for safety. The sound of the gun clicking into place filled the air, and in one horrifying second, time seemed to stop. But then, as the chaos peaked, a blinding flash filled the room. It was an explosion of light that swallowed everything. Was it another blast? Jacob shielded his face, bracing for impact. When the light faded, and he dared to look, a figure stood at the center. His mother, the one he thought was lost forever. "Jacob!" she cried, stepping forward with an authority that took Jacob's breath away. "How?" Words caught in his throat. Everything he thought he knew shifted like sand beneath his feet. "It's all connected," she said, voice strong but trembling. "You don't understand the truth about your father or the deal we made." His heart raced. The room pulsed with tension. Every gaze pressed on the two of them. The weight of their family secrets hanging in the air like a noose. Were they all part of something larger? His father grasped Jacob's shoulders, locking eyes. "You need to trust us. This hasn't just been about you. There are others involved." But before he could finish, a deafening blast shook the room once more. Jacob stumbled back, shockwaves reverberating through him. The chaos was relentless. The realization struck him hard. The roots of his family ran deeper than he had ever imagined, tangled in webs of deceit. And now, every layer was being peeled back, exposing fears he thought had long been buried. "Jacob!" Sarah yelled, trying to catch his eye. "We have to go!" He looked around, the chaos swirling. But all he could think was that everything was unraveling, disintegrating right before him. What's happening? His voice barely rose above the uproar. Then the truth settled over him like an icy grip. His father and mother were here. But why now? What did they want from him? Who were the real enemies? The entire night felt like a scripted play gone horribly wrong. As the panic escalated, shifting like sand, Jacob's world teetered on the brink, and he had no idea how deep this rabbit hole would really go. Would he uncover the truth in time? Or would it all spiral out of control? Jacob's world hung in the balance, every revelation hammering against his chest. He stood frozen, caught in the crossfire of truth and chaos. His mother's presence sent shockwaves through him, every unspoken word between them amplifying the tension in the air. The sky was falling, and he felt it hard to breathe. "Jacob!" she shouted, pulling him from his thoughts. Panic laced her voice, and in that moment, every instinct told him to flee. The guards were pressuring Lily, and the masked man loomed dangerously close, gun raised. Just as Jacob's pulse quickened, instinct urging him to protect everyone, another explosion shattered the tension. Dust and debris rained down. People screamed and dove for cover. Jacob shielded Sarah, but needed to keep her close, every part of him screaming to escape. Then he caught sight of a fleeting figure just ahead. A glimpse of someone emerging from the chaos. A flash of recognition ignited within him. It was Lily, but she wasn't running away. "Mom!" she cried, weaving through the throng with desperation. The guards were distracted, their focus shifting as panic blossomed in the crowd. Before Jacob could react, the unthinkable happened. He watched in horror as Lily, frail and scared, charged forward and wrapped her arms around the masked man's waist. "Please don't hurt my dad." Time froze. The man's body twitched with surprise, but there was a moment of tension as everything came to a halt. All eyes turned to the child, confusion rippling through the crowd. Jacob's heart sank like a stone in water. "Jacob, what's happening?" Sarah leaned in closer, gripping his arm as if it were a lifeline. The masked man froze, gun wavering in hand, gaze shifting between the girl and Jacob. There was a flicker of fear in his eyes, followed by something else. Recognition? Then, before Jacob could process it, the masked man ripped off his mask in a violent flurry. Jacob gasped, blood draining from his face. It was Marcus, his brother, the one he thought lost to anger and betrayal. "Lily?" Marcus's voice cracked, reverberating like a prayer. "What?" Jacob's mind screamed, disbelief coursing through him. What was happening? The world around them felt like a twisted dream. "I had to come back for you," Marcus shouted, fear mixing with urgency. "This isn't what it seems. They want your family. All of us." He glanced towards their parents, betrayal swimming in his eyes. "And they were right about me being scared. But I never meant for it to end like this." The crowd gasped collectively, murmurs striking like lightning. Jacob's body tensed, confusion surfacing with every heartbeat. Could it be true? But before Jacob could squarely wrap his head around this truth, lights flickered violently overhead. An oppressive shadow descended from the edges of the ballroom, heavy and filled with malice. The ground beneath him trembled, and a voice echoed through the tumult. "Enough of this charade." What emerged from the dark was a figure clad in a black trench coat. A palpable chill swept through the room. It was someone Jacob recognized, and his gut twisted. "Dad?" Jacob whispered, shock igniting desperation. His father stood before them, alive and changed. The man he thought he had lost seemed unscathed, yet somehow even more dangerous. "Jacob, listen! There are levels to this you don't understand," his father shouted, eyes ablaze with urgency. "They've been watching us. You have to get out. Now." Fear wrapped around Jacob like chains. Loyalty shattered within him. "What are you talking about? Why now? You were gone all this time. Why? Because, son, the truth is darker than you can imagine. They're coming for Lily because they want her power." Jacob couldn't breathe. The room narrowed with dread, pulse pounding in his ears as he scanned the chaos. Everyone was watching, whispers of judgment hanging like storm clouds. He didn't know whom to trust anymore. What power? He managed, searching his parents' faces for answers, for any inkling of truth. Then his mother stepped forward, her voice low and measured, but full of weight. "You're connected to something much bigger, Jacob. Your family isn't just wealthy. You're embedded in a legacy that goes back generations." The bombshell landed like a cataclysm. Marcus stood silent, his eyes wide. Jacob couldn't process this revelation, his thoughts racing faster than ever. What did it all mean? As the tension hung thick in the air, Lily's small voice broke through. "But I just want my dad." In that instant, everything around them exploded. The floor ruptured, a gaping chasm opening beneath their feet. Screams filled the air as bodies fell. Jacob reached for Sarah, grasping Lily tightly, heart racing, as chaos erupted. Everything he thought he knew shattered. A dizzying whirlpool of secrets and lies pulled him deeper. The ground beneath him felt like quicksand, and just as he was about to sink, he vowed he would uncover the truth. He had to. The battle was escalating, and Jacob was at the center of a storm that threatened to swallow them whole. Would he survive it? And more importantly, could he protect those he loved as the world crumbled around him? Jacob's heart was racing. The room spun in chaos around him, each person caught in their own nightmare. Dust filled the air, thick and suffocating, as he clutched Lily tight, torn between disbelief and the desperate need to protect her. Her small hand felt so fragile in his. "Stay close," he shouted over the din, urgency weaving through his words. He turned to Marcus and his parents, confusion blazing in his eyes. "What is happening? Why are you all here?" Marcus shifted, glancing at the masked figure who was no longer just a stranger. "It's all connected, Jacob. Families like ours. There are powerful people who want to control us. They want you because they think you're the key." The panic in the room seemed to swell, voices rising. Jacob's father stepped forward, anguish etched across his face. "We need to leave, now!" The ground shook again, echoing the tension around them. Cries erupted as fragments from the ceiling rained down, sparking real fear in everyone's eyes. "Go, go!" Sarah urged, pulling Jacob toward the exit. He hesitated, wanting to know more. "But what about Lily? I'll protect her!" Marcus shouted, his voice breaking through the turmoil. He scooped Lily up, cradling her against him, determination flaring in his eyes. "Get your family out!" Jacob swallowed hard, every protective instinct clawing at him to trust his brother. He nodded, racing out with Sarah and his parents. The path was anything but straightforward. Nearly everyone in the room seemed trapped in their own struggle. Shouts filled the halls as they rushed through the maze of bodies. Fear palpable in the air. Jacob could feel his heart pounding, every beat echoing the uncertainty surrounding their escape. As they neared the exit, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the space into near darkness. A moment of silence fell, heavy with dread. "Keep moving," his mother urged, tugging Jacob toward the door. "We're almost there." But just as they crossed the threshold, a loud crash echoed, reverberating through the air. A figure appeared in the doorway, blocking their escape. "Stop!" The voice was cold, filled with the kind of power that made the air feel thin. Jacob froze, every instinct screaming to fight. "Jacob!" Sarah cried, her grip tightening. "What do we do?" Was a dance of desperation, caught between past betrayals and present horrors. "We don't fight," Jacob whispered, eyes locked on the figure, his breath catching. "We have to trust Marcus and Lily. They're family." The figure stepped forward, and to Jacob's shock, it was the man who had once called himself a friend, now turned enemy. "You think this is over? You have no idea what you're up against." But Jacob felt a surge of hope amid the chaos. "We can't let fear control us," he shouted, raising his voice for everyone to hear. "Whatever shadows haunt us, we stand united." In that moment, something shifted. The presence felt less threatening, more uncertain, as if Jacob's defiance had created a rift in their despair. "Jacob," his father breathed, stepping closer. "You've never been alone in this. We're in this fight as a family." Pushing through the haze of chaos, the determination in Jacob's heart radiated towards Sarah. Their hands clasped tightly. This time, he wouldn't let fear dictate his fate. But as the dust settled, one question lingered in his mind. What awaited them on the other side of this storm? "Let's go!" Jacob cried, ushering them onward. As he took a step out into the night, he felt the weight of the past lifting. They were more than their scars. They were family. They could rise from this, no matter how treacherous the path ahead. And as they disappeared into the uncertainty, Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. You have to subscribe now! Don't miss out on the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even a second longer to share. Your support is what makes this community thrive.